And as Jiggy alluded, how did this all started? Well, it started with Mark Davis, our owner, who bought the Aces in January, and you guys have probably heard a lot of why he bought the Aces, and a lot of that had to do with he wanted to elevate the league, but also elevate these young ladies where they are able to have an affordable salary here and stay in the States. And one of the things that I will say before we jump into Becky, I will say this about Mark. You know, I was coaching for almost 25 years, and his vision to not only elevate the players, but also his vision to elevate those who have paved the way. So as you guys probably know, this past season, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the league. And we were, as a franchise, intentional on inviting those who have played for the San Antonio or Utah Stars. We invited them back for a weekend or weekday plus a guest. And we wanted them to know how important they were and still are to our franchise. And so the Alumni Initiative really gave us a chance and gave Mark a chance to visit with Becky. But we also wanted to also let Becky know that we appreciate what she's done on the court. So we also retired her jersey, and her jersey is hanging in the rafters of Michelob Ultra Arena, where we currently play. So that's where it really started when we decided to bring the players back. I was also able to hire Jennifer Azey as our chief of business development. And that was something, again, that Mark expressed to me early on for us to really provide access and opportunities and put these young ladies in leadership roles. And we have one of the best leaders on and off the court in Becky Hammon. And we're so excited that she's going to be leading the Aces organization as our head coach.
Thank you, Nikki. That was obviously a snapshot. Actually, now that I hear you tell the story, I'm like, were you after me way back then? Like, I'm not sure, because you guys obviously brought myself and my family in and treated us great. We had a great weekend, really fun weekend, getting to know you. And I think that actually probably was the first foundational piece to putting this all together. When I heard Nikki would be reaching out to me, to one of my friends, I said, really? I was like, why? She's like, talk to you about a head coaching job. I was like, oh, okay. I feel like I've always been open-minded, and sure enough, talks obviously progressed. And me and my family, we just came to the conclusion that the Las Vegas Aces would be the best spot. And Mark's commitment, Nikki's commitment, the people that they're bringing along, Jennifer Azey, it's like, how can I not be a part of this group? You just could feel that they were building something special. So I'm super excited to be back in the W. I'm super excited to be leading this group of girls. And let's go. I'm ready for 2022.
All right. Once again, if you do have a question, go ahead and raise your virtual hand or let me know in the chat. And I know I'm still trying to grant some recording privileges to people. We will have the entire press conference available for download. So I will send out that email to everybody as well. And I'm still getting to a few of you, but let's go ahead and get things started with Pepper Pursley.
Hi, thank you, Jiggy. I have a question for Coach Hammon and for Nikki. So, Coach, congrats on the new job. I can imagine there's a lot that goes into a decision like this for you. Can you just walk us through that process?
Yeah, you're right. A lot did go into this decision, a lot of sleepless nights, to be quite honest. But at the end of the day, this is a tremendous opportunity. Like I said, the leadership that Mark and Nikki and the direction that they want to take the organization, and not just the organization, but also the WNBA, is something that could not be ignored. And so after grappling many nights, honestly, over it, I can tell you, Pepper, too, when she first called, I had no intentions of leaving the NBA at this point. And after talking to her and wrestling and throwing around different ideas and stuff, obviously I came to the conclusion that this was the best spot for me and my family, and an opportunity for me to, sit in the big chair and be a head coach of a major professional sports league. And so I feel like I'm ready to have my own team. And this is the organization that made it very, very obvious they wanted me really, really bad. And so it's always good to be wanted. And so it quickly became evident to me that, Las Vegas was the place for me.
Thank you, Becky. Excited for you. So Nikki, just how excited are you to have Becky Hammon back in this organization, and how lucky are you that she said yes?
Oh, I mean, we're excited. I mean, when I finally was able to say Becky is coming, I was doing, the whole fist pump. I mean, I was just extremely excited because, the conversations that Becky and I have had over the past couple of months, I got a chance to know Becky as the person. Obviously, we know what she's done on the basketball court as a player, and we've seen what she's capable of doing, even in the role that she's at now and excelling there. But I think when you're building a team, you want people who are like-minded, like-spirited, because you want your culture to be that of a championship culture. And Becky brings that to our franchise. And so we're across the board, from everybody in our front office. I've been communicating with Bill Lambier. He's been completely supportive the entire time that we knew that we were going to go after Becky. And I will say this, we weren't really trying to move Bill out or anything like that, but Becky was the best person that we felt could lead our organization. And I'm so thankful that she and her family saw the value in that, because what we value in her. And so that's where we are right now with Becky. And again, she's done a phenomenal job of just balancing everything right now through this period. I know she's on the road right now, and to be able to take time off the road to come and talk to all of you guys, that tells you the importance of this.
All right, let's go to Michelle Vopel. And if everybody would, some of you may know Becky from back in the day in the W. Some of you may be San Antonio reporters, but if everybody would mind introducing themselves and letting us know what outlet you're from, so she can start putting names to outlets.
Becky, Michelle Vopel from ESPN.com. I wonder two things. Could you sort of tell us what are some of the things you've learned about yourself and about the sport in your time in the NBA that you think you'll bring back to the WNBA? And also, how much have you watched of the Aces over the last few years as they've been close to a championship? And what do you think is the thing that can sort of help take them to that level?
Hi, Michelle. First of all, haven't spoken to you in a while. But what I learned, I think, first and foremost, is probably about myself, is just I have a lot more to give back to the sport, to the athletes. I've sat under now arguably the best coach in basketball history for going on, this will be 8 years for me after I complete this season. And, I've just sat on so many meetings, so many practices, so many preps for playoff games or regular season games or whoever it is the next night that we're playing. And I think I've just, especially in my first few years, I really tried to obviously be a sponge. And I think in order to continue to improve, you have to be a sponge throughout your whole career, right? Like even it's sitting in the head coaching seat, you're still in the process of always learning and bringing on new information and new ideas. And so for me, I guess I'm here talking to you guys because I feel like I'm ready to be in that seat. And this is the organization that wanted to give me that opportunity. And so just that I have a lot to give, and that if anything I've learned, it's that basketball is basketball. The court is 94 feet. The hoop is 10 feet high. There's 10 players on the court, and it really doesn't matter who's out there. I want to coach the highest level basketball players. And I saw a lot of high level basketball players, not only on the Aces, but throughout the whole WNBA. I really started watching them actually pretty closely in the bubble when they made it to the finals against Seattle. One of my good buddies, Vicky Johnson, was obviously an assistant coach for the Aces. And so she was calling me and we were bouncing ideas back and forth on different things that they could have done. And likewise, one of my buddies was friends with Sue Bird, and obviously giving her transversely what she thought they should do. So I watched pretty closely that series. And so I know that the aces are close, and I do feel like implementing a system and my offensive system and defensive system is something that I'm really looking forward to. And I think that championship is well within reach. So that opportunity in itself, to walk into a situation with a winning team and the caliber of players that I'll be inheriting from Bill in the foundation that he laid. I'm super fortunate and super blessed, and obviously very excited.
Thank you.
Chantel?
Hey, Becky, Chantel Jennings with The Athletic. Congrats on the job. I'm just curious kind of logistically what the next 4 to 5 months look like for you as you prepare for this job. And as a part of that, as you look to filling out your staff and hiring coaches, kind of the people you want to surround yourself with.
Well, it's going to be very busy. That's what it's going to look like. There's a lot of work ahead. For me, obviously getting a staff in place is my first priority. And we have free agency coming up on the 15th. So, going to hit the ground running. Obviously, I still have to fulfill my duties here with the Spurs, which is very demanding and requires a lot of time, but I will be pulling double duty for a while here until April. So I'm super excited, but getting a staff in place. And I think it goes back to what Nikki said, is just getting people that are like-minded. It's really important for me to get eyes next to me that see the game. And who I trust their eyes and what they see and feel. Sorry, with on the basketball court. So I think the culture that they're starting to build, I'm just going to bring people in that I believe fits into that culture, and people that honestly have a good sense and have been in the WNBA and understand the league as a whole. So there's a couple names I'm tossing around, bringing on, but I can assure you they're going to be excellent basketball minds. They are already excellent coaches. And I would just be thrilled if, I could sit them next to me and have them, be along with me on this journey.
Thank you.
Howard?
Hey, Becky, Howard Megdal at the Nets. Good to see you again.
Hi.
I'm curious if we could sort of dive into that a little bit more. The details of the next few months. This is a team, obviously, that's come pretty close to a championship already the last couple of years. Do you see it as a process over the next few months of trying to make significant changes? And to that end, do you see it as something where you're looking to continue the model that Bill had, whether it's, shooting relatively few threes? Do you look at what, you've been part of building in San Antonio as the way in which you're looking to build? I'm just wondering sort of how those details come about and the way in which you go about making that happen between now and May, in those dual roles.
Well, I tell you the first thing, part of Michelle Vogel's question, is how much have you watched? And that will be one of the first things. I got to watch all of our games. In order to put the pieces together and find the pieces that I feel would fit with what my vision is for the team, would fit with what the need is for the team. But doing like a total rehaul and massive changes, no, I don't see that happening. I think they have some really good pieces in place, and what it's about is finding the chemistry with those players, building that foundation out, but then also adding a few pieces that fit the style that I want to play and that I see moving this team in that direction, which means we'll shoot a few more threes, to be quite honest. So we'll get up at the floor, up and down probably a little bit more. But I can tell you the type of player that I really want is a competitive one. I will take a little bit less talent. I would love to have talent and super competitive, but I want really competitive players that want to be there and want to work hard and buy in right from the start. And so that will be obviously something that I'll be preaching every day, is the buy-in factor, and that we can get a lot of great things done together. And we'll all have very clearly stated roles, and then we can hold each other accountable.
And just in terms of the bigger picture, and we've talked about this in the past, about making the move from NBA to WNBA, from WNBA to NBA, your life in a lot of ways is a model of breaking down those barriers now in both directions. And I just wonder how much you've thought about that. Obviously you have to make the best decisions for your own specific career, but how much does it matter to you that you've been this avatar for creating essentially one basketball?
Well, to me, this is a step forward. Being the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces is a step forward and a step in the right direction for myself, for women's basketball. And I think I cannot emphasize the importance of this opportunity that I have, and that I think this is more advantageous for growth. And there's something to being a head coach. You know, I sat in a lot of head coaching interviews, and, you know, I don't think there's two things that people always said, you know, you've only been in San Antonio and you've never been a head coach. Well, I can tell you right now, Mark Davis met me, Nikki met me and said, that's a head coach right now. That's a head coach right now. We're going after her. She's the person. And so that's why they got me. And I couldn't be prouder to come back to the W. It's where I'm from. We're not even having this conversation if it wasn't for the WNBA. So I couldn't be happier to come back and give back and invest in these girls, not only as basketball players, but as young women and as leaders, not only in the community, but in the world. So I am stoked.
Jackie?
Thank you. Hi, Becky. This is Jackie Powell from Bleacher Report. Thanks so much for giving us this time amid your busy schedule. So I did some math today, and I looked at what the percentage of women head coaches was in the W 2 years ago in 2020. And it was around 33.3%. And so we don't know what's going to happen in Phoenix, but based on your hiring, and then Sandy Brondello's hiring, that brings that percentage up to around 58.3% women head coaches. So what I want to know from you is, what does that increase mean to you? Why does that matter that we're at a moment in 2022 where the majority of head coaches in the WNBA is women?
Well, I think it matters because representation matters, right? It's important that we start to see leaders as leaders. And I think once we can start kind of peeling back the layers of society and what is viewed as, this is a leader, this is what a basketball player looks like, this is, you know, all these labels, and that we start hiring people based on what they bring to the table, based for their basketball knowledge. And like I said, I mean, there's so many great women coaches out there that should be leading their own teams and given those opportunities. I mean, we have never had these press conferences when it came to a man leading a woman's team. We just haven't. We always have them. And there's all these conversations about either women leading a men's team, which really hasn't happened yet. So once you start getting into these leagues and you start seeing, you know, Sandy Brondello has won championships in the WNBA. You know, Cheryl Reeves. I mean, these are quality coaches, period. Take off any other label. They are great coaches, period. And quite frankly, I've been watching the WNBA for a long time and stealing all their plays for a while. So they have great basketball minds, and you know, they are 100% invested in what they do, and they are the best at what they do, and they should be paid as such, and they should be rewarded with these positions as such.
I appreciate that. And to follow up, I wanted to ask you a bit about Sandy Brondello. You know, she's someone who coached you, I think was it 2010, I think? So, so I'm curious as to what you remember playing for her, and why you think she's been as successful as she's been in this league.
Yeah, so they were, her and her husband, Olaf, were assistant coaches down in San Antonio when I went down to San Antonio. And so I know Sandy and Olaf very well. It's an absolute great hire by New York to get Sandy. Great coach and equally as great or greater person. So she's somebody who I've obviously learned a lot from over the years, having played under her. And also, like I said, having watched her coach throughout her journey. So yeah, I mean, to me, I hope that trend continues. I hope, you know, women continue to get these opportunities, because it's not, you know, I always say this too, you know, it's important for little girls to see that, you know, but it's also important for little boys to see that, because if we're going to talk about changing minds, you have to change it generationally, which means my 2 little boys need to know what it looks like to be a leader. And to them, their mom's a leader, and that's how they look at it. That's it.
Thank you so much, and good luck. Can't wait to cover what you do in the W again.
Thank you.
Anne-Marie?
Hi, Anne Marie Anderson. Was play-by-play for the Aces for the last few years and got to see Nikki's powers of persuasion this last year. So I'm not surprised, Becky, to see you there. I'm wondering, as you reflect back on your trip where your jersey was raised to the rafters, what observations did you make of the franchise, of Nikki and Mark, that upon reflection kind of helped you feel like this was the right fit for you?
What I really felt from them really was from the jump was they are 2 feet in. They're absolutely committed to investing in women, investing into the WNBA, investing into their community. They're not taking any shortcuts. So to me, that commitment really came through with how I was treated when I went out there. You know, everything was done first class. And I got to tell you, Nikki, you talk about her power of persuasions. We've had multiple conversations now. And one of my best friends actually works for the Aces. And I was like, I just really, really like her. Like, I feel like I've known this woman forever. Like, you know, and so obviously, you know, that connection, I think, for me was very strong. And just how throughout the last 2-3 weeks before, you know, when I was grappling with all these decisions, their patience, the way they handled themselves, I was like, these are people, you know, that I really am going to look forward to working with, coming in and seeing every day. And the like-mindedness that Nikki talked about, and kind of the vision in the future where we see, not only, like she said, not only the Aces going, but the WNBA and women's sports in general. And I couldn't be prouder to be a part of the organization and be part, you know, of that movement.
A follow-up for Nikki, please. Thank you for saying that about our sons as well. You and I have had this discussion that our sons need to see leaders. They see President Fargas there. They're well aware that, you know, women in roles of leadership. Nikki, I'm wondering for you, what was it about Becky that was an absolutely must-have where you went after her so thoroughly?
Well, I mean, I've followed Becky's career and her journey, and you know, when Bill and I were sitting there and we were discussing, you know, who we would want to lead the Aces, and like I mentioned, you know, he had a short list, and I just said Becky Hammon. That's all I have to say. That's it, because Becky checks all the boxes. When you mention community, Becky, that resonates with us, and that's why Mark has made a huge commitment, not only in us hiring Becky, but also his commitment in building a home for the Las Vegas Aces, where they can train, where they can work out, where they can recover. Our basketball ops will have their side of the building, business ops. It's going to really feel like a family. And I think that's a level of commitment when you're building, right? Building facilities. There's been talks of a future arena also for the Aces. So just the vision that we all share is a movement. It's a movement in the right direction. And Becky touched on this, is that there are some unbelievable coaches. And when we get to the point where we can just take off and peel off the labels, Becky is the most talented person for the Aces, period, hands down. So to get her here, I said, whoa, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you, Santa Claus. Because that was one of the biggest presents that the Aces organization could have underneath our umbrella, underneath our family tree, so to speak. And I love Becky's passion. I mean, you know, I've got a chance to watch her on the sidelines. She's on the refs more than I was, right? But Becky has this intensity about her that absolutely gives me chills, because to a certain degree, Becky, you remind me a little bit of Coach Summit. There's a little bit of that in you where you can just fire somebody up, but also they know that you're going to put your arm around them, that you're going to be there for them, that you're there for them as the person and not just a uniform. And so I'm glad that we have that understanding already checked with what you're going to be able to bring to our franchise.
Thank you both.
Tina, were you able to unmute?
Yes, I was able to. Becky, hi, Tina Nguyen with Channel 13 in Las Vegas. 2 questions for you. One, why have you never closed the door on coming back to the WNBA? And secondly, you've said before how you were the kid that was always, unpicked. You went undrafted, now you've just broken all kinds of barriers. So what's your message to this next generation?
Oh, Tina, I never closed the door on the WNBA because I love the WNBA. It's where I come from. It gave me my base in professional sports. I played 16 years. This is 8 years, with Coach Pop and the Spurs. So I'm working on 24 years in a professional arena. And I am super, super grateful for all those years because it was really all training ground for me for what I'm going to do next. And I've also learned to never say never or that I'm not going to do something because generally that's what I end up doing. Like, I'll never do that. Oh, yes, I will. So I've learned to just keep my options open and be open-minded. I try to be an open-minded individual. And so obviously when Nikki called, I listened. And, obviously we came to terms and agreements and the rest of it. What was the second part of your question?
You said before how you were the kid that was always not picked, you went undrafted, but now you've just broken all kinds of barriers. What's your message to this next generation?
I guess, and I've said this before in interviews, but I'll say it again because it's worth saying in that, everybody talks about being, the barrier breaker and hitting the glass ceiling and breaking the glass ceiling and doing all this. But I could tell you, like, the greatest barriers I've overcome are the ones that I had in my own mind. And so what I would tell this next generation is don't limit yourself. You're the person that can, and you're the person that should. If you're able to act, you should act. And so what I've learned is that, over the course of my career, I'm pretty resilient, I'm pretty feisty. And I'm competitive and I'll do what it takes to win. I'm somebody who was passed over basically because I didn't look the part. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't athletic enough. I wasn't fast enough. I didn't look that part. And so I got passed over. And so what I would really like is to get to the point where people are hired based on what they bring on, their mind, what's in between their ears. And what's in here, because I think at the end of the day, you can look at whatever you want to look at, but you can't measure what's in here and what's in here. And that's really what's set my journey apart, probably for me, and made me successful, not only on the basketball court, but in coaching. It's just that you can't measure that. You can't see it. Hopefully you'll be able to see it in how, our success on the court this year. But, I've been hit so many times that you just continue to get back up. You don't know any other way. It's just a habit. You just keep getting back up because, and I'm not saying life hits everybody, but how we respond to it is what is eventually going to define us, not the hit itself.
Thanks, Becky. Excited to see you on the sidelines here in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
Ms. Chambers.
Thanks, Jiggy. Hi, Coach. It's Ari from Turner Sports. Highlight her. I have a question for you and Nikki. First with you, you said you have a lot more to give at the beginning of this call. So I want to know what you hope to give to your players, especially as a WNBA legend, and kind of tying that into why it's so significant. I know we've talked about it a couple of times, but why it's so significant for you in particular to return back to the WNBA, but what do you want to pour into those players? And then I have a question for Nikki after.
Well, like I said earlier, Coach Pop has been pouring into me a lot of knowledge, a lot of not only basketball knowledge, history, all sorts of kind of knowledge. So I feel like I'm bubbling over with stuff like I want to give back that I have to say. Things that I want to teach, things that I want to convey, things that I want to instill, habits I want to create with the girls and for the girls. So that's what I feel like, is that I'm bubbling over to give back, because I've been in a process where I've been in a great learning situation under a great head coach and organization. And so it's just time for me. And what was the second part of your question?
I just want to know, as a WNBA legend returning, basically what it was, but I mean, hey.
I mean, I think that is what it is, right? Like, and I touched on it before, just that without the WNBA, we're not having any of these conversations. Without the WNBA, I'm not an assistant coach for the Spurs. And so I'm super grateful, for my time in the WNBA. It's literally, basketball has been my life. I mean, I don't know. So I've had a heck of a journey. I've had a heck of a ride. And I know there's still a lot of great things ahead of me to do, and things that I want to do and accomplish.
I can't wait to see it. And Nikki, you mentioned that you wanted to elevate the league and continue doing that, but what does elevation of the team in particular look like to you, especially coming up on this year and this monumental hire? What is, like, I guess, I don't think that instant elevation is the right wording for it, but like, what does success look like to you going into this 26th season?
A championship.
Period. Yes, queen.
No pressure, Becky. No pressure at all. No, you can define winning. And to me, I always look at and focus on winning the day. And what does that look like? Because once you win and focus on the immediate, then I think the final part of it is going to take care of itself. So we've got to win the day. We got to win the day, not only with the players and Becky's relationship and developing those relationships. That's success. Obviously, we've got a young roster. We have a very talented roster. We Bill and Dan, they did a great job of assembling this team. And so we have a core nucleus that will be returning. Winning also is about people. We've surrounded ourselves with some great people in my front office, but also, as Becky mentioned, putting her staff together, bringing in some of the best assistant coaches to help us reach our goals. That's winning. Winning also is for us to sell out the arena. That's a win for us. And I feel like our opportunity to not only have our players in the community, but as well as once Becky season and allows her to be. But I think there's going to be, and as you can see on this call, there's just an uptick of excitement in the Las Vegas community, just by Becky Hammon being here, because she is one of our own. She is part of our family. And I think that's an area where we know that that's another stepping stone for where we want to be, right? We want to be one of those places where Las Vegas becomes the North Star. We want people to look at Las Vegas Aces franchise and say, look, ownership is investing. Ownership is recognizing that there are great leaders out there that need to have those opportunities. And that's exactly what Mark Davis has allowed us to do, not only by my hiring, but also by allowing me to go out and really go after, a Becky Hammon. I mean, that to me says a lot about our ownership, recognizing the not only the value that Becky's going to bring on the court, but the value that she brings to those young boys and young girls who are looking up. I have a daughter, Justice, and she is so excited that Becky is here. So I think it's important for us. What is it, Becky's legacy? What is that going to look like? And you leave your legacy through people who are going to be talking about you well after you've gone. And I think that's what Becky's going to be able to bring to our franchise. We obviously want her here as long as we can. And this is not just a hire just to say that we got Becky. This is a commitment for a long time commitment to Becky and her family as well.
I just have one follow-up. Sorry, Diggy. I understand that she's a legend, and I understand that you guys actively pursued it, but what is one quality about her that set her apart from the rest, outside of the fact that she came from the WNBA and outside of the fact that she's been an excellent coach in the NBA?
Oh, how much time do I have?
Girl, it's just like, I'm just kidding.
The thing that I would say, there's an energy about Becky that is just contagious, and I use this a lot with my daughter. I said, you know what? Are you going to be that kid that when you walk into the room, it lights up? are you going to be that kid when you leave the room, it lights up, right? And Becky, when you can feel her presence, the energy, the presence, it's there, and it represents winning. It represents doing things the right way. It represents respect. It represents treating people like you want to be treated. It represents having an accountability, but also shouldering the weight of what comes with that when you do step and sit 2 inches, 3 inches over. So I'm going to cut it there because I can keep talking about Becky Hammon.
Thank you.
All right, we've got time for a couple more questions before Becky needs to put her Spurs hat back on and figure out how to beat Toronto. So, LaChina?
Sorry, am I unmuted? Okay.
You are unmuted. You're good.
Hi, Becky, LaChina Robinson, ESPN. I'm just curious, how much of a role, if at all, had your NBA head coaching interviews had in the timing of this change and maybe possibly pushing you more towards leaving for the WNBA?
Ooh, that is a loaded question, LaChina. Thank you for that.
Had to get you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. And I've said this before in interviews, in some ways, like, I feel like I was very close. This was not really about the NBA or the WNBA. This was about me personally being ready to have a team and wanting to have a team and wanting to sit in that chair and then being presented with an opportunity to do so. And, NBA jobs are hard to get. In some ways, I feel like the NBA maybe is close. In other ways, I feel like they're a long ways off from hiring. I don't know when it could happen. What I know is the Aces have 100% of my attention and my energies. And I'm super proud to be their head coach and lead this group of girls. I never left out coming back to the WNBA because I love the WNBA. I'm passionate about the women in it, and not only what they do on the court, but what they represent. And so I'm excited to give back and get involved and just jump 2 feet in.
Thanks, Becky. And really quick question for Nikki. Nikki, just curious on what the timing was of reaching out to Becky. Like, when did that happen and what prompted that?
I don't think Becky realized, but I was already sending those vibes to her when we were unveiling her retired jersey. Like, literally, I was holding her hand and I was sending it to you then, Becky. No, the timing, obviously, we wanted to be respectful of what we needed to accomplish this season. And then after the season, Bill and I sat down and we discussed, and we've had multiple discussions before the season ended. But we discussed too what's going to be the future of the Aces, who's going to lead this franchise. And so we were put together, like I mentioned earlier. We had our short list, and Becky was the first person and to be quite honest, the only person that I reached out to, and the Spurs were unbelievable in granting us permission to talk with Becky. But we were also being very sensitive of the fact that she is also with the Spurs, and we wanted to be patient because I understand this is a big decision for she and her family, and having uprooted my family, I get that, and so there was this period where we wanted, any questions that she had, we were ready to answer them. So we were patient. I don't have a lot of patience, but with Becky, I have plenty. But we were
very patient for sure.
Yeah, we were very patient, but it obviously it worked out. But I will tell you, when I first was able to, when Bill and I talked about Becky, we both were like, if we can get her, this would be amazing. I mean, we knew that, and we knew it was going to be a game changer, because that's all she does. She changes the landscape of where her feet are. And so we're excited about that too.
Thank you both. Welcome back, Becky.
Thank you, girl.
All right, last question, Mr. Simon, if you will take us out, and for everybody else, if you weren't able to get your question asked, I apologize. We've got 90+ people here today, which I think speaks to the importance of this hire and what folks think of the hire. So we thank you for joining us. The transcript, the video of this will be available on the links we sent out initially. If you need those, reach out to me at jmaxwell@lasvegasaces.com and I will resend them. Mr. Simon.
Hi, Alex Simon from The Next. Just two quick ones, one for each of you. Becky, when Nikki talks about patience, kind of how recently did this kind of settle in for you that this is the thing? Like how recently were you finally making the decision that, yeah, I'm doing this?
She got the decision when I made the decision. Like I said, there was a lot of sleepless nights for me. When you talk about leaving your community, I've been with the Spurs and their organization now for 16 years, the fact that the Stars then, obviously went to Las Vegas and I am where I am is certainly, I guess, symmetrical or poetic in some ways, that I'm back in what was I played, 8 years with the organization until, they went to Las Vegas. And so I told Nikki when I knew that was it, and I didn't say, she was probably going crazy because she had like no contact with, I went ghostly silent for a couple of weeks while I was tossing around all these decisions. And so when I knew, I told her, but I will attest, she was extremely patient, both her and Mark, with me while I grappled with the decision.
And Nikki, it's been reported by The Athletic and several other outlets that Becky is about to become the highest paid WNBA head coach, and by a good margin. And obviously you guys at the Aces, you said you want to be the North Star, but how important do you think it is to also kind of be maybe the rising tide to lift the entire league up to that point and keep pushing it? Is that an organizational mindset that you guys really find important?
It's extremely important. As Becky, alluded, we're not here to cut corners. We don't cut corners. I know as a former player, and when you run, you say, hey, touch the line. We go over the line. We don't just barely touch it. We go over the line. And when you have an owner who, again, wants to uplift this league by showing the value, whether it's the value of hiring someone like Becky, but we're recognizing talent and we are investing in the talent. So yes, we do need coaches need to be paid, and they need to be at that level where we feel is very, very worthy of Becky's contract, very worthy. And I think we have to lift up the league. Not saying that there's not great coaches in the league now. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that let's recognize talent and let's definitely pay talent and have the same equitable contracts that allow our genders to uplift each other, right? Because I think it's important for us to show that when you invest, that look what it can do for the league as an entirety, not just for the Aces organization. I know that we're going to have an uptick because Becky is part of our organization in so many areas, whether it's the engagement from social, or whether it's ticket sales, or whether it's us garnishing more partners, right? I think we're going to have an uptick because we're investing in Becky Hammon, who brings a wealth of knowledge. Again, the championship, when I was asked what does a win look like, it's this journey that we're on together, and it needs to be that the first 25 years of the league is what it is. But how do we move the needle? How do we move the next 25 years to be even better for the younger generations to come?
Thank you both, ladies. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Once again, if you're looking for video of this press conference, we will upload it to the Aces sites here over the next half hour to an hour. And if you need that link, feel free to reach out to me at jmaxwell@lasvegasaces.com. Nikki, thank you so much. And Coach Hammon, thank you so much. Good luck against Toronto tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.